Welcome to episode 5 of the Knighton Runs podcast. This is Chris Knighton, and I'm excited to bring on my guest today, Kyle Robidoux. Kyle Robidoux is a ultramarathon runner and beer enthusiast. He's an avid skier, a father, a nonprofit manager, and has worked tirelessly to break down the barriers for entry for athletes with disabilities in sport. Kyle's a good friend of mine, someone who I've had the pleasure of sharing many runs with, and helped him as his crew on a number of ultramarathons that he's entered. He just recently, in March 2021, completed his 5th 100-mile race at the Umstead 100 in North Carolina. I wanted to bring him on the show to catch up with him, see how that race went, and learn about all the work that he's doing this year. Stay tuned for a conversation between Kyle and me about his race, finding friendship through the running community, breaking down barriers to entry to sport for athletes with disabilities, and just a conversation between two good friends. Kyle, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Chris. Thrilled to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I wanted to reach out to you first and foremost because you had just finished a 100-mile race down south, the Umstead 100. How was that?
Overall, it was a great experience. I am about 2 weeks into kind of a forced recovery, just trying to lie low and get my sleep and nutrients and legs and body back together. But the race itself was a huge success and a really fun time.
That's awesome. Like I mentioned kind of in the opening there, I've been able to join you on a bunch of your 100-mile adventures. How many have you done now? I've lost track.
I'm not big on numbers, but I think that was my 5th 100 that I completed. And then I also have done the Trans Rockies 120-mile stage race, but that was over 5 stages, so 5 days. So I think 5 straight up 100s. So it was in Raleigh, North Carolina. Umstead State Park. It turned out to be a gorgeous, gorgeous park. Super cool. Seemed like 15 minutes from downtown, which was neat to have this like vast, urban rural park so close to a downtown area like Raleigh. And I talked to a local runner who said they actually could get like 30, I think she said 32 to 35, unrepeated miles within the park. But we ran on it's a 12.5-mile looped course. So 8 miles, about 1,000 feet of vertical gain each loop. And it was a mix of like a 1.5-mile kind of out and back that they called like a spur, just to get some extra miles. And then probably 3 miles on like a really wide dirt road trail. And then essentially you did like a 7-mile loop. And that was comprised of some really beautiful, like double track, just like really flowy, windy, rolling hills. And then it dumped you into this backside aid station. And then a couple good like punchy climbs, but nothing that like, your hands on your knees that you thought you were going to die. It was just like some good vert getting up.
Nice. What led you to picking that one?
So I am being a bit more selective in some of my trail races. So Umstead is known for being, incredibly runnable.
Yeah.
So it was all dirt roads and then really well-packed kind of gravel double track. Ironically, the only section that I had to walk because of terrain was you kind of came into like the Umstead camp and you had to dip down and you had to step down these series of railroad ties. So I had to walk that, and then you had to walk back up another series of railroad ties that brought you to the start finish line. So you looped that every time. And that was really the only section that I couldn't run because of terrain. So I really wanted something that I could stretch my legs and run based on my abilities and not necessarily gnarly single track and rocks and roots and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like that would be the type of ultramarathon that I would love to being able to open up. It's funny, when I first got into running and trail running, I was really into the technical stuff too, but as I've gotten more into road running and trying to run faster, now the concept of like a trail race on dirt road and double track fire road, things like that really appeals to me too. So that's cool. And I bet it was a totally different experience after like what you dealt with at Western, to have an ultra that was mountainous, but pretty smooth terrain.
Yeah, it was nice really just to focus on, the basic principles of running that we all face, right? So fueling, pacing, staying on top of my hydration. So when we started the race, it was upper 70s with really soupy high humidity. So coming from Boston and New England, I don't think I'd run over 40 degrees all training block. So it was really warm, but it was a great field. I think there were just over 200 runners between like the 100-mile and a couple 50-milers. And then there was a short section, probably I felt like 2 to 3 miles of two-way traffic. So you also get to see other runners out in the course, which was fun just to say hello. And all those sections were like really wide, the wide road part. So it was easy to get by them, but it was also fun just to kind of check in with folks. You'd see the leaders bomb by you or even lap me a few times. Our good friend, Scott Traer, who I know really well as a coach and a friend and fellow, New Englander. He was out there hammering it all day long. I think he went sub 14 hours and came in second. So it was fun hooting and hollering with him every time he either passed me or a few times he laughed at me.
Yeah, he is impressive for sure. Yeah, that is so cool. One thing that I've wondered, Kyle, is as the years go on and you do more and more of these ultras, what keeps bringing you back to them? What's your motivation to go through all the training and have to take the forced recovery afterwards and get it done?
I'm learning that it's a combination of all the things that we train for, regardless of distance. If it's a 5K or a 10K or a marathon or a 50-miler or a 100-miler, right? It's the process of training. Mm-hmm. It's the planning and preparation for race day. And then it's the execution come race day and the problem solving in race. But at the end of the day, man, to be honest with you, it's so much about the community. Yeah. Even in non-COVID times where we're all itching to get out in races and run with friends, even before that, it's just so fun to be out on the trails and sharing miles. And so many of my guides that I've been lucky to run with, they sometimes joke and like, they tease me that I'll often either run faster or purposely slow down if it means running with someone else. And part of that is I love chit-chatting and meeting new folks and reacquainting with old friends and meeting new folks on the trails. And so it's a combination of all that. But I think the underpinning theme for me is really that sense of community.
Yeah, that's cool. Some of my fondest memories as a runner have been supporting you in some of your 100-mile efforts. I think the first one I did with you was the Vermont 100, where you asked me to be your crew lead car driver, and me, Samantha LeBlanc, Jeff LeBlanc, your wife, and a few others were up for over 24 hours, driving all around Vermont, meeting up with you, driving your sighted guides and your pacers around too, and that was so fun. That was like, I know you might think like that was an event for you and it might have been a big ask for us, but like that was one of the funnest weekends I've had in the sport, helping you out. So I totally agree with you. Ultra running creates a sense of adventure and community that is very, very unlike what you can get in like a 3 or 4 hour road race for sure.
Definitely, man. It makes it a team sport, right? You need a crew, you need pacers, you need friends to keep you fueled. And yeah, I mean, that Vermont 100 was my first 100. And actually, I thought a lot about you and Jeff crewing me. that time because in 2019, I went out to Vermont 100 and crewed, Jill and I actually crewed a buddy of mine as his first 100. So one, it was nice just to kind of pay that karma back, but it's also just so much fun experiencing the race from that side of it. And, you know, you go through similar issues in terms of sleep deprivation. And you actually, as a crew, you have to stay on top of your own eating and your fuel. But you don't have to log those really long miles and those steep uphills that Vermont brings to you. So yeah, it's a cool way to experience any race, volunteering or participating in it.
Yeah, I had to let Jeff drive once at like 2 a.m. because I was falling asleep.
Yep.
That was fun. Yeah, for Umstead, I know it was a very runnable course. Did you have the crew organized down there?
I did, man. It's what's so amazing about the running community, particularly the trail and ultra running community, but just broadly the community in general. So yeah, I had Jill and I drove down ourselves. So she crewed me, and it was a pretty, you know, it was nice that every 12.5 miles I could see her. And there was one main aid station almost at the halfway mark, and then kind of one smaller aid station on the course as well. So logistically, it was great. But then I had 5 sighted guides, 2 who I've never met before, a father and son, and 3 first-time sighted guides. One woman who, actually this guy who I met at Trans Rockies in 2018, who actually helped me register for the race, because you gotta be quick and register and fill out all the information. So he actually, like, I was on the phone, he was on the computer. This guy I had only met like 6 months previously, 2 years ago. So yeah, a total of 5 guides, and they all crushed it. The father, son each did a loop, and then every other guide did 2 loops. So it was a nice way to break it down. A couple local runners who knew the course really well, a couple experienced ultra runners who, by the time it came where pacers were allowed, you know, I just ran with a sighted guide, but because of COVID, I decided not to run with an additional pacer. But I had a couple experienced ultra runners and endurance athletes who were great about keeping me on top of my fuel and hydration and pace, and helped me map out, you know, my last couple laps in terms of what I needed for timing and pacing to achieve my goal. So it was just awesome that, you know, collectively these folks gave, you know, 26 to 29 hours of their time when you factor in what, you know, their driving time and all that, to help me out for this race, in addition to Jill, my wife.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I assure you, it's super fun to be a part of. You know, I've always been happy to help, and that's so cool you were able to find first time guides as well. Were you able to find them through the United and Stride network?
Yeah, not directly, but indirectly. So one of them had actually paced a buddy of mine guided a buddy of mine who ran Umstead a couple of years ago. So he recruited his son when he had hip replacement surgery. And then 1 or 2 of them had initially learned about guiding through United and Stride, but then have continued guiding. So I've met them kind of through that sighted guide runner community. And then the guy Justin from Raleigh, or from North Carolina, who I met at Trans Rockies, he was just local, super nice guy, really talented athlete. So and he had said when we were running like through the quicksand in Trans Rockies, I remember him saying, if you ever come to North Carolina, look me up. I'd be happy to run with you. And like a year and a half later, I was like, hey man, I really want to run Umstead. Can you help me out? And he said, of course. And he actually was crewing a friend. So he crewed, and then I picked him up at mile 50. He and I ran 50 to 75 together. And then I was out on my 7th lap, and he was out pacing his buddy who was on his final lap. So, I mean, he had a full day of crewing, guiding, pacing. So it was super cool just to see everyone out there. And I think people were really excited for, you know, a race in real time. And the race directors did a phenomenal job in terms of, you know, COVID precautions and making all the racers and the volunteers feel comfortable, yet also put us in a position to, run as hard as we wanted to.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, I give major kudos to any race director right now who's making these things happen. I've been able to do one in-person race this year, and yeah, they did such a good job. It felt no different than going out on a run on a busy bike path or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's good. And a fun fact that I learned down there, so we had a really whole gamut of weather, including 2 thunderstorms that rolled in with some hail. And then unbeknownst to us, I didn't find this out until after the race, but they actually closed one of the aid stations for a while because there's a tornado warning. So it was funny that they keep the runners on course. You can apparently run through a tornado warning, but they closed the aid station for the volunteers for a while.
Yeah, well, you have a long way to go. They don't want to make you have to stop.
Exactly. Thankfully, it was a ways away. It didn't impact us, but yeah, the thunderstorms and the hail was a trip, especially coming from 80 degrees. You're sweaty and all that, and then just get totally drenched with some really gnarly lightning. These big open fields, and also some big wooded areas as well. But we got through it.
Nice. How about the finish? Were you able to accomplish your goal for the day?
I hit my secondary, my B goal. My A goal was to go sub 24 hours, and I was on that through 75 miles. I was right on the cusp, but then I just couldn't hold. I essentially had to run, a 3-hour loop each time, which is about 12 and a half miles, and I just couldn't hold that pace. And my secondary goal was under 26 hours, and I was proud, and I ran 25:02, I think, and I would have got under 25 if not for those pesky railroad ties that I walked at the end. But I was really happy that my crew and Jill kept my spirits high, because I have I'm known, at least in my own head in space, to once I miss my first goal to kind of just mentally melt down from there. But I stayed in good spirits, and I was still excited. I moved pretty well. Lap 7 was okay, but then I picked it back up for lap 8. So I ran really consistently, and I didn't know this until just last week. I started after the first lap, I was in like 91st place, and then I finished in 34th place or 35th place. And the only time that someone passed me was another runner bombed by me right at the end going down those rail ties.
Yeah.
And I think she knew that she was gunning for sub 25 hours.
Yeah.
And she came flying by me, but she was, in the last 7 loops, she was like, that was the only time that I lost placement. So I felt good that I ran pretty consistently and also was able to kind of move up throughout the day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you find that you were passing a lot of people, or do you think a lot of people were dropping out ahead of you?
That's a good question. Of course, I was passing everyone, Chris. No, I think it was a mix. I mean, it's also hard in a looped course to figure out, like, when you're passing folks, are they ahead of you or behind you? But I think either way, I mean, for me, it was less about like passing people, per se. But I think it showed me that even though my times in the last 2 loops dropped off a little bit, my pace was incredibly consistent for 75 miles, which, my splits, so I was able to get 12 and a half mile splits, and they actually were within, I think, 14 minutes of each other for the first 6 loops. So well past the 50-mile mark, which I was excited, which I think shows that I went out slow enough to maintain a solid pace. And obviously things didn't go as well in terms of the last 2 loops, but I think the last 2 loops were like 3:11 and 3:09. So weren't like, or 3:30 and 3:20. So weren't like, I didn't walk the entire loop.
Yeah, that's cool.
I had 6 hamburgers the entire race though, which was pretty fun.
That leads into the next question I wanted to ask you, Kyle. So one of my athletes who I coach ran her first ever 100K race this past weekend, and I'm super proud of her. She did great. It was in Zion National Park, 100 kilometers, and she did it with a couple of friends. She finished seems like she had a really great time. Before I started coaching her for this event, she had never even run more than a half marathon. So
Nice.
basically went from, she a runner, but 5K, 10K kind of distance runner, all the way up through half marathon, all the way up to 100K in one season, which is a huge leap. Obviously, it's like a huge undertaking to do. But what impressed me by her is that it was all doable, and she was able, she had no issues. She was able to do it, and I think a lot of the folks I coach, they sort of maybe don't understand how an ultra could even be possible. And Kyle, as someone, you do both road races as well as the ultramarathons. When you look at training for an ultramarathon or running an ultra, like how do you approach it differently than a road race, both in training and like mindset? To me, they seem like
Yeah.
very different events.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think mindset is more important than the physical nature of it. Like much like regardless if you're doing a 5K or a marathon, you always know that some runs are gonna, quite frankly, they're gonna suck and you're gonna feel horrible and you just have to push through them.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that happens. That's the biggest difference on pretty much every Saturday or Sunday run. Although maybe you're halfway into a long run and you feel great, but I go into them mentally prepared that the last hour are just going to be a grind, which is great training, both mentally and physically. I think running ultras is all about learning how to run tired. Mm-hmm. So often it's as much about just time on your feet rather than just big miles. And my weekday running, for the most part, is structured the same way. Like I do, track runs on Tuesdays. I do hill repeats or workouts on Wednesdays. When I'm training for ultras, I take Thursdays off. Normally I run Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but I take Thursdays off and then I go back. So I get 3 good days of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Mm-hmm. And, Friday is usually like, it's structured like a recovery run. So there's no time goals there. It's just, get out for 6 to 9 miles. And then you just stack your miles on the weekend. So when you start any training block, for me, it's similar to marathon running, right? It's, 20 miles on Saturday with maybe 8 to 10 on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And then you just build from there. And for me, when I first started ultra running, that's what I was looking for. I was really burnt out and unmotivated in my marathon training, not necessarily the running and the racing, but the training, mm-hmm. because it was so monotonous. And training for an ultra brought almost like a new personal goal for miles or time on my feet every weekend, because I was stacking those Saturday, Sunday runs. And I knew that Sundays were going to hurt and Saturdays you take it kind of easy to get to Sunday.
Yeah, that's cool. I, someone who kind of follows along with what you do on Strava, and I've joined you on some of these runs too, like the individual long runs that you do in your training can be pretty epic in their own right. Like I think you ran a marathon on the Blue Hill ski road.
50K.
50K?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Was that?
Yeah, but that was a huge day of climb, right? It was 7,500 feet of vert going up. So I knew if I got that done, that would mirror almost the vert for the entire race. And obviously it's a little different running almost a mile up and then a mile downhill from race day. But I really wanted just to get my climbing legs underneath me.
Cool. Do you think a lot about the climbing in the training in addition to just the distance?
I do, so my weekday training, like the hill repeats that I do during the week are usually, like it's a structured workout, whether it's on the treadmill or like a quarter-mile hill by my house. So it's a mix of, tempo, running hard, it's a structured kind of high intensity hill workout. Whereas on the weekends, I'm definitely trying to get just longer climbing and more vert, but it may mean walking the hills. Like if I'm running in the Arboretum, or if I'm running Summit Ave in Boston, both really steep hills, maybe I'm running a quarter of it, then I'm hiking up the rest. for me, who's like, I'm a mid packer, right? So I'm not crushing all the hills, but I'm trying to be mindful of getting in that vert. And then also, quite frankly, I work on my hiking like speed a lot and trying to get it to that like 16 to 17 minute walking, hiking uphill.
Yeah, I feel like you can cover a lot of ground fast if you're just able to hike a strong pace. Later on in an ultra, people's pace can really degrade into almost a crawl. But if you can just keep up that strong hiking pace, you're pretty good, especially over anything challenging.
Definitely. And, I think being a flatlander in Boston, it's, trying to be creative. I do spend a lot of time. I have a treadmill at my house. So I do some longer weekend runs on my treadmill because that's when I can hike for 3/4 of a mile, maybe even a mile at 15%, where I can't get that anywhere in the city or without driving. So, and then I spend a lot of time on 1/4 mile or maybe 1/3 of a mile hills, running up and down them a lot, but varying the speed in which I'm going up and coming down.
Yeah, that's cool. What do you think is coming up for you, Kyle, in terms of your racing? What are your goals for later this year?
It's a good question. I was supposed to run Miwok 100K in early May out in San Francisco. Running in the Headlands is on my bucket list, but that race was canceled a month or two ago, understandably so.
Mm-hmm.
So I am signed up, be back at Vermont 100 in July. That was canceled. I was signed up for it last year, so back deferred to that for July. And I'm not sure yet what the fall will hold. I mean, I'm planning to register for the Boston Marathon in early October, but in terms of ultra or trail running after that, I'm not sure. I've been thinking maybe do some camps or just, take it easy, maybe try to find something in late November or December, warmer weather. I'm not quite comfortable to fly yet.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping by the fall, I'll be, even though I'm fully vaccinated through work, maybe by the fall, I'll be ready to fly somewhere.
Cool. Will this be your second time doing the Vermont 100?
It's a good question, man. Yes. Yeah, I've done the 100 mile and the 100K. So it'll be my second time doing the 100 mile.
Right.
But again, I mean, that's a hard race. I mean, that to me is becoming similar to the Boston Marathon, where it's just a hard race to say no to because respectively, they're the biggest races in this region.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just super fun being up in Vermont, like the local trail running clubs, volunteer at all the aid stations. And, every year you run it, more and more people. So, it's almost like a rolling party. So it's hard for me not to sign up for it. And it also raises money for Vermont Adaptive Ski and Sports, which I ski with and I mountain bike with in the summer. So it's their biggest fundraiser. So it's also a way to support them in that community as well.
Yeah, that's cool. And you get to eat pancakes and and burgers and other good food along the way at all the aid stations.
Yeah, and margaritas too.
Margaritas.
At like mile 60.
Yeah. I'm getting ready for my third ever marathon in May, and I don't think I'm gonna be eating any pancakes during my race.
Are you running Providence?
I'm running the Newport Marathon, Rhode Island.
Oh, nice. Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. So my marathon pace is like becoming scarily fast. I feel like even though it's still a marathon, like I feel like the faster you get, the intensity increases because the time you're spending running is less.
Yeah, especially for speedsters like yourself. I mean, that's what I tell everyone. Like physically, my quads are way more trashed after a road marathon than they are in a 100-mile race. Tenfold. Like I don't even think my quads, which maybe speaks to that I'm not running hard enough, but my quads were barely sore after my 100-miler. But I can't go down a set of stairs or sitting on a toilet after a road marathon.
Yeah. Having not run a road marathon or any marathon in like 3 years because of COVID and the delays with all that, like, not gonna lie, it's kind of scary. I think if there's any event that is similar to ultramarathoning in the road running world, I guess it is the marathon. I was talking with one of the guys I coach this week, like the marathon is the only event where you don't cover the distance in training. And just like an ultramarathon, for a 100-miler, your longest run might be maybe 50 miles or 100K or something like that, or less. For a marathon, your longest run is maybe only 20 miles, plus or minus a few. So it's like you're kind of going up against the unknown to try to go that far and go at your set pace. It's really like you've never done it in training before.
No, totally. But to me, that's what's so darn exciting, right? Is that unknown of, regardless of how prepared I am and how tight my fueling plan is in my preparation, you still don't know what those last couple miles are going to hold, how hard you're going to run, what will you have left when you just drop the hammer. So, those mind games are what makes race day, again, regardless if you're doing a 1-mile race or 10K or a marathon or 100-miler, like that, to me, is the most exciting part come race day, is that sense of unknown.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super excited this year. I'm like very, very optimistic that things will be good with racing this year. Everyone I know is like starting to fill up their calendar again. And people's summers are starting to flush out again with stuff. And I know we're all still being cautious, but I'm really excited to get back at it.
Yeah, no, totally agree. It'll be a good year.
For those who don't know Kyle, who might be listening to this, Kyle is an avid beer aficionado, and a couple years back, you were organizing some really fun beer runs all around Boston. Is that something you're thinking about bringing back?
Yeah, so we just went to Night Shift Brewing on Saturday night and sat outside, and I was telling my wife as we were going there, like, oh, there's a couple new breweries in Everett, maybe enough to link together for a run. So definitely want to do something like that. And I'm also still loving my beer, but also I'm drinking a little bit more non-alcoholic athletic brewing beer to kind of help me balance things out during the training cycles, which is great. It's nice to have a non-alcoholic beer or two during the week and still get that, scratch that itch for a great beer, but then be able to kind of continue and push forward on your training goals as well.
Yeah, that's cool. We definitely had some fun runs in Boston. I think that's when you first met Erica. She came out to one of those in Cambridge.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, we did the whole little lamplighter, aeronaut, and one or two other spots. And I think we started at Heartbreak Hill Running Club in Cambridge. That's right. I've been down once or twice to the Providence Marathon, and it always is a blast and seems like a pretty cool local scene. So
yeah,
I'm sure you guys will have a good community down there.
Yeah, the Providence Marathon, it's happening again. They are forging ahead with it. Rhode Island's, for better or worse, is happy to be doing races. So I'm happy to attend them. And yeah, Erica, my wife, and a couple of my athletes are going to be running the Providence Half Marathon. I ran the course with my athlete John a couple weeks back, previewed the course as part of my long run, and it's really fun. It goes up this popular running road in Providence called the Blackstone Boulevard, which is on the east side of Providence. And it's kind of reminiscent of the Newton Hills, sort of reminded me of that, where it's like grassy mall in the middle and fancy houses on either side and pretty tree-lined street and everything.
Oh, cool.
And then it kind of finishes down by the waterfront and everything.
Okay. Does the half marathon run along like that bike path that the marathon runs along right on the water? Does the half marathon do that?
No, so I thought it did. I assumed it did, right? Because usually, like when there's a marathon and a half, they kind of share the same course, but it's actually like a completely different course. I think they share like the first mile or so, and then they just like the half marathon goes north, the full marathon goes south. I feel like logistically for the race organizers, that must be hard because it's like you have twice as much streets you need to close down and twice as many volunteers and everything. But the half course looks sweet. I'm a little jealous actually that I won't be running it. But I guess I live here. So I can go run it whenever I want. So Kyle, you've become good friend of mine over the past few years. And when I first met you, it was at a group run a friend invited me to, and got to know you. You were telling me that you generally, when you go out and train, like to run with a partner who acts as your sighted guide. As a visually impaired athlete, a lot of times you'll find benefit in running with another person to help with the navigation and pointing out if any obstacles, so that you can run, at your full potential and speed, especially like in a city or where there's challenging terrain. And I have helped you at a number of events doing just that, and some of the ultras we talked about, and it's been super fun. I don't think I really knew this at first, but you're also like very involved with the visually impaired and adaptive sport community, and advocate for that at large. And it would be great to hear a bit about what you're doing in that space and some of the programs you work on.
Sure, and I always appreciate your friendship, and as well as dragging you all around New England and out west for Western states as well. So appreciate your willingness to jump in and help out in all my guides. Like I said before, for me, running with sighted guides kind of moves running from an individualistic sport to a team sport. So I've been really lucky to have great friends that either started guiding me, or mostly now people who've started guiding me who've now become very good friends, such as yourself and many others, which is wonderful and speaks to the power and the nurturing sense of the running community. And I also get lucky that as part of my day job, I run a website called United in Stride, and that helps facilitate the matching of runners who are blind and visually impaired with sighted guides. So it's like a website platform, and it's all throughout the country as well as Canada. So I have both kind of my feet, both personal and professional, inside the running community, which is really nice as someone with lived experience. It's nice to be able to kind of to blend that and speak from both my heart as well as my experience and trying to move things forward. I've been doing more and more kind of under the umbrella of diversity and inclusion, really trying to figure out how do athletes with disabilities fit into that space. So doing some technical assistance and some, conversations with race directors and trying to create athletes with disabilities divisions, such as at Vermont 100. That was what we think was the first 100-mile ultra race to have an athletes with disability division. So, and then doing some work with the US Trail Running Conference and presentations, and really trying to promote that as much as we can to get, as a way to break down the barriers for folks who love to be outside, whether it's walking or running, to be able to get outside and do that with the support sighted guides. United in Stride is kind of set up to work with folks all throughout the country, regardless of where you live. You can create a profile and hop on and do a search and by your zip code. So there are about, I think just over 4,000 people with profiles on United in Stride, about 70% of whom are sighted guides. So there's some really high pockets of individuals who are blind or visually impaired. There's also great organizations like Achilles International, which has chapters. There's a chapter here in Boston, really big footprint and chapter in New York City and Denver and San Francisco. So United in Stride kind of partners or builds off of the on the ground work that Achilles International or Team Red, White, and Blue or Catapult down in Houston. They're on the ground doing like weekly group runs and support. Mm-hmm. And we try to complement their work by having this database and this resource for sighted guides and runners who are blind or visually impaired.
Yeah. And people are needed at all different ability levels and distances, right? Like some of the athletes who are looking for guides are training for like the Paralympics, for example, and need incredibly fast runners, and it can actually be hard to find someone.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, everything I tell folks, everything from a 2:28 marathoner, which my coworker is, and is hoping in 2 weeks to get down to Nebraska for the Paralympic marathon trials, So everything from a 2:28 marathoner, which means he needs guides who split a half around 110, 115, because you want to be able to run that comfortably, to folks who are running 4, 5, 6-hour marathons, also looking for sighted guides just to go out and walk. Someone who wants to walk for a mile or two or run a couple miles. So it's all paces, all abilities, all distances, which is, again, the goal is really just to break down those barriers and support people getting outside, and access to sighted guides is the biggest barrier and challenge to getting outside.
Yeah, I hear you. And I feel like teamwork is like such an important thing in running that can easily be overlooked. For someone who, if you're not part of a running club or have a good group of running friends or something like that, like reaching out to people and just running with them, whether they're faster than you, they'll pull you along. If they're slower than you, you'll slow down and enjoy it more. Like it's so valuable making friends through this community and just sharing miles with you.
I totally agree, man. I think we can get caught up, or I can get caught up sometimes on, I want to hit this pace, I want to do these splits, I want to get this distance. But at the end of the day, running is meant to be enjoyable and fun. And part of that is getting to meet new people. And, some of the best memories I have from races or even training runs are where I meet new folks or run into old friends, and we get to chit chat and we talk. And then all of a sudden, the miles fly by. Or you're all of a sudden at this aid station where like, wow, I can't believe I just ran 10 miles because the conversation was so great. And that to me is what being outside and enjoying the outdoors is all about.
Where can folks reach out to you if they want to learn more about you and what you do?
Folks can reach out. My website, which has a little bit of my running and public speaking, is just kylerobidoux.com. Twitter is Kyle R. Robidoux, and my Instagram handle is Blind Beer Runner.
All right, that is the episode. Thank you so much for listening. You can subscribe to the Night and Runs podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major listening platforms. So please do, so you won't miss the next episode. That one's going to be coming out soon. You can also follow along with what we're doing at nightandruns.com and on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Night and Runs. I started Night and Runs because I love helping other runners reach towards their goals and exceed them. I hope this will be the year you take your running to the next level too. We all have power within us to do really awesome things, but it's totally essential to commit to a goal and take massive action to work towards it, whatever that may be for you. So if I could help you out, feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'd always be happy to map out a game plan with you, figure out what you can be doing to make this your best year of running yet. Thanks again for listening. Take care. Bye.